Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about the perfumes I've been buying in 2022. I haven't done a haul video at all this year, so I feel like they're overdue, especially since I have been buying perfumes. I've got three in this video, and I would say out of these three, there are two that I really do like, and there's one that I'm really not sure about. So the first fragrance is one from Dolce Gabbana, and it's Dolce Garden, which is a 2018 flanker of the original Dolce fragrance that came out in 2014. And I feel like this one was a bit of a sleeper hit because having a coconut note in and also being called Dolce Garden, which don't really add up to me, I think that made it a little bit under the radar until people started talking about it on YouTube, and then it sort of got hyped and everybody wanted to try it basically. So I feel like this one is probably the best loved of the Dolce flankers. I know they've got a new perfume out this year called Dolce Lily. I haven't tried it, but I don't think that's been very well received from what I've read. So this one is a tropical, fruity, but mainly floral fragrance. It does have a coconut note in it, which I think is why it got popular in the first place, because people just tend to love coconut, don't they, in fragrances. It's a popular note, and it's just so summery. But actually, I've been really enjoying wearing this one in the winter. It's got a really kind of solar feel about it. So initially it opens with a pineapple note to me. It's sort of not like a sharp pineapple, but just a gentle pineapple. And I know pineapple isn't listed, but I'm assuming that might be the frangipani and the coconut kind of mixing and tricking me a little bit. It then becomes even more floral. You get a bit of the ylang ylang. I wouldn't say it was, a really stinky ylang ylang like ylang ylang can be sometimes in more vintage smelling fragrances. It's not like that at all. It just adds a bit of sort of sunshine to it. And then you also get more of the coconut. So the coconut is a super creamy coconut, but it's really overlaid by all those florals in this fragrance. It's definitely something that is just in the background, but it just gives the whole thing just a really, really creamy tropical feel. It's a really uplifting fragrance. I feel like this fragrance feels milky almost. It feels like it's like something like a body cream or something like that. It's got a very creamy vibe to it, and actually this is far more floral than I was expecting. I was expecting something with far less depth. I was expecting something that was more like a body spray or something that was far more like a shampoo kind of fragrance, and this definitely isn't like a shampoo kind of fragrance. I've been really pleasantly surprised by this one. I've found my husband loves this one, which, he hardly ever remarks on fragrance, and if he does, to get two compliments on the same fragrance is absolutely unheard of, and he has complimented this one twice. I think that's only happened with one other fragrance in my collection, so that's really astounding. This is definitely a sweet fragrance, and as it dries you do get more of the floral, so you get more of the magnolia and more of the frangipani, but really the coconut is still there, so it still does have that creamy vibe. The dry down of this fragrance just smells very tropical, but also very sweet and vanilla-y. I found that the longevity of this fragrance has been really, really good actually. It's lasted a long time, and I feel like it doesn't project that much, but it's not terrible. I would say that if you did want to overspray this and spray this on your clothes, you could get it to project. So this was a blind buy. Having tried it, would I go and buy it again? Yeah, I think I would. I think this one is a really nice coconut fragrance, and just those florals just add more to it. And I really like the way this feels like a body cream with the almond milk. It's just a very comforting, relaxing kind of fragrance, and I think it's perfect for, when it's horrible weather outside and you just want to feel like it's the summer. It's one of those. I'm not actually sure that I would want to wear this in summer. I think it could be a little bit cloying if it got a bit warm, but maybe on a cooler summer evening or on a cooler summer's day, this might be a good shout. So that's Dolce Garden. So the second fragrance is one that I've had massive FOMO about, and that's because I saw Adrienna DC talk about this one, and she even said in her video where she was discussing this one, she said, "I think Claire has this one," and I thought, oh, I don't have that one. And she said that she just associates this fragrance with me, so I felt like I should try it because I'd never tried it, and it's not available in shops anymore. And I know it was discontinued, so I thought, right, I'm going to go buy it. So this is Nina Ricci's Ricci Ricci, which came out in 2009, and it's in this really pretty pink purpley bottle with this lovely bow on it. And this one is famous for having a rhubarb note, and I don't really have any rhubarb fragrances in my collection, where the rhubarb note is prominent. The only one I have, I think, with rhubarb is Aura, but to me, Aura is something that is just generally a green vanilla. It doesn't really stick out to me, the rhubarb in Aura. So this one, really, the rhubarb is very prominent. And actually, when I first spray this, it smells to me like a brown sugar. A brown sugar dissolving in hot water is how I describe this fragrance. And then there's also like a white floral along with that brown sugar. So I think there is datura in this and also tuberose. Honestly, I wouldn't pick tuberose out for sure. And I'm not entirely sure that I know what datura smells like. So I would just say that there's just a general white floralness. So after that sort of dissipates, that opening dissipates, you then get more of the rhubarb. The rhubarb is super sharp. It's really zingy. And it's something that is toned down a little bit by the rose. So there's something that smells like a really sort of concentrated rose essence in this, like something you would use in cooking basically. And that just adds a lot of warmth and just takes it back from the edge of being too sharp. It's a really nice contrast to the rhubarb note in this fragrance. There's also some patchouli. It's not an earthy patchouli, it's quite a gentle patchouli. I feel like if you have issues with patchouli, you probably still won't like this fragrance, but it's really not dirty patchouli, this one. I think this is a really interesting fragrance, and I feel like this is something that people would wear to go out in. I don't really feel like this is very much a daytime fragrance. I do also feel like it's more of a wintry autumn kind of fragrance. I actually thought this fragrance didn't have great longevity on me. It was probably about 4 hours maximum. And actually it projected far more than I thought it would. It really surprised me just how much other people could smell this on me. I think overall I don't like the beginning of this fragrance as much as I like the dry down, which is the right way around with a fragrance, isn't it? Because that's the bit you're stuck with, the dry down. That's the bit that lingers and you have to like. So I'm pleased that, you know, that's my favourite part of this. And I think really the reason I like this is because of the rosiness. I'm just a massive rose fan and that's probably why I like this fragrance. But I just think that the rhubarb note is super interesting. So yeah, if I had my chance again, would I buy this again? For sure I would buy this again. I really like this one. So that's Ricci Ricci by Nina Ricci. It's really different. So the third fragrance is one from Charlotte Tilbury, and it's Scent of a Dream, which came out in 2016. And I saw Pink and Fabulous talking about this one, and she said to me that she thought that I would really like this fragrance. So I thought I'd try it. So I don't own any Charlotte Tilbury makeup or anything like that, but I kind of know their vibe, and their vibe is a vintage vibe, isn't it? It's like kind of a 60s kind of, like Sex Kitten aesthetic, isn't it? I feel like they did a good job with the packaging with this fragrance because it does look a bit 60s, doesn't it? It looks a bit like a spacecraft to me. Having tried this, I really understand how people were saying that this was not a mass appealing fragrance. It really isn't a massively appealing fragrance. It's definitely got a very vintage vibe about it. And to me, the Charlotte Tilbury brand would be associated with something perhaps to do with makeup. So something like an iris kind of fragrance. This one is really not what I was expecting from Charlotte Tilbury at all. So this is based on Charlotte Tilbury's experiences growing up in Ibiza. So she says that she used to go to hippie markets and she used to buy scented oils, essential oils, and make her own mixes. And this fragrance is supposedly based on those scented oil mixes from those hippie markets, which, you know, to me sounds like it might be marketing. But it could be true. It's definitely got a very vintage, retrospective looking vibe about it. And I definitely think that's why it's not been more popular. I mean, if you read reviews of this fragrance, people are saying things like scent of nightmares instead of scent of a dream. And I totally get why a lot of people wouldn't like this fragrance because it's very, very old school smelling in parts of it. So saying that this is inspired by vintage hippie markets in Ibiza, I do feel like there's just a general kind of citrusy sparkliness throughout this fragrance, almost like a fizzy drink. So the opening is a sparkly, fizzy, hippie smell, but it's also quite metallic smelling. So there's black pepper, lemon and patchouli, and to me those three notes give off kind of a grapefruit vibe. There's definitely a grapefruit vibe in the opening of this fragrance. I think that later on it becomes more white floral. So there's definitely jasmine here, and it is a little bit indolic, only slightly, but it is a little bit indolic. And there's also tuberose. There's also violet, but it's definitely not a sweet violet. It's more of that kind of fuzzy floral, warm violet in this fragrance. This fragrance overall just sort of tickles my nose. It makes me basically want to sneeze. The dry down of this fragrance reminds me of those yellow soaps. I remember the woman who used to look after me while my mum went to work when I was little. Her husband used a yellow soap, and I remember washing my hands with it and the smell of that soap. And this is how the dry down of this fragrance smells. I'll put a picture up because I don't remember what the yellow soap was called or anything, and probably nobody will know what I'm talking about, but that's to me what this smells of, that soap that guy used. I do find this perfume quite hard to describe, and I think that's maybe because it's got molecular notes in it. So it's got ambroxan, and it's also got ISO-E Super, and because I don't have any other fragrances with ISO-E Super in, I have no clue whether I can smell that note. But to me, it does smell a bit woody, and it's definitely very long lasting, this fragrance, and it definitely has a lot of projection. So I'm assuming I can smell ISO-E Super, and that is what I'm smelling with those kind of things. So I feel like this fragrance has two sides. So one side is the hippiness, so there's the patchouli, the citrus, and the incense, and that's one side to this. The other side is the more vintage side, so the white florals, the spiciness, and also the soapiness. And I feel like that is the bit that people aren't enjoying, because it's just not like anything else that is on the designer market. This is not something that you will smell on the regular. This really does stand out, and it is an interesting fragrance, but I just don't think it's an actually pleasant one, to be honest. I think it's just a bit too much, and the dry down on skin is just so vintage smelling that I think it's going to put a lot of people off. But I think, you know, this is something that if you do like that vibe, it could be a hardcore love. It's something that you don't see every day, or you don't smell every day. So yeah, if you wanted a signature fragrance that is really something that is stand out and different, this is definitely different. For me, this is not a close-up perfume. I feel like this is something that is much more preferable to smell in the air, perhaps to smell on someone else rather than yourself. It's something that can be bothersome close up. Would I buy this having smelt it and experienced it? No, I don't think I would. I don't think I enjoy it sufficiently to warrant buying this. I think it's interesting, but I don't think it's me, and I don't think that it's something that I want to reach for regularly. Is how I feel about it. For me, this fragrance doesn't really have an occasion, and I think that's the problem with it. It's not special enough for special occasion. It's not everyday enough for every day. It's something in the middle that is just a bit weird, and is something that I know that if I keep in my collection, I'll probably not reach for. I'm gonna keep trying it for a couple of weeks and see how I go, but I think this one is maybe just not for me. So that's Scent of a Dream. So please let me know if you own any of these fragrances and what you think of them. And also, if you haven't done already, please consider subscribing, and also press the like button if you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!